Okay, good evening. We're going to get started. Apologies for the delay, and thank you for your patience for members who have joined us here in the audience tonight and those of us at home. Welcome to Council's regularly scheduled council meeting. Mr. Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Bermudez.
Present.
Councilman Clark.
Present.
Councilman Deutsch.
Present.
Councilwoman Fox.
Here.
Councilman Gale.
Here.
Councilwoman Rosado.
Present.
Councilman Sanchez.
Present.
Councilwoman Thames.
Present.
Councilwoman Lynch.
Here.
We have a quorum, Madam President.
Thank you. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor to start us through our business agenda.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Council President. And through you, Council President, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules to introduce a resolution by Mayor Brown in item number 36.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Any discussion? Councilman Deutsch.
Thank you. Through you, Madam President, in general and with respect to the public watching and attending this meeting, we save suspension of the rules when there's some urgency in a certain situation because it's necessary by law to let the public know what's on the agenda. And one item which is not on this agenda is selection of a new member of the Board of Education, for which we, several of us, see no rush whatsoever as opposed to having it on the next regular agenda item. And in addition, this constitutes the nomination by the mayor of the sixth person, not just 5 as it is now, which means there would be 6 appointed by the mayor and only 3 elected at large. And I thought we had all said we should have more elected members of the Board of Education. So I'd like to say, no, we should not suspend the rules for this item, but have a fair discussion of it among all of us. Thank you.
Councilman Clark.
I'm sorry, Madam President, but through you, I just want to comment on the good doctors, my friend and colleague of the Working Families Party. The Board of Ed, per our charter, has 5 appointed individuals and 4 elected. And so with this add-on to our agenda would actually, after our process, would fully make sure that the Board of Education is now fully occupied with all 9 individuals on the Board of Education, because there has been at least 2 vacancies.
May I ask a question of the commentator? Is it the case now that with the appointment that we make today to the Board of Education, there will be 5 mayoral nominees?
There's, through the chair, still vacancy. This, Mr. Philip Rigger would now, after we vote, would now make that the 5th appointee, appointed by the mayor.
Well,
So,
just
just so for clarifications, there are currently 2 vacancies. So there's an agenda item that is on the current agenda that went through the process and that we're prepared to vote on. And then this walk-on is filling the last vacancy, but that is going through our normal process. We are not voting on that tonight, but it's important that we get it going through the process so we have a Board of Education that's working at full capacity with all seats occupied. Minority Leader.
Thank you. Through you, Council President. Just for those who are viewing today, whether they're viewing through their at home or if those who are here tonight, I guess the general question is, how long has the other vacancy been in existence for? How long has that other one been vacant for?
Well, the 2 vacancies, because there's 2 vacancies, one has been vacant for, don't quote me on this, but approximately maybe 2 months, because Tiffany Glanville resigned her seat, I want to say March, April, but don't quote me on that. And then the second vacancy was for Richard Waring, who vacated that seat last year. So that's been over a year, just about a year, that seat has been vacant.
Okay, thank you. Through you, Council President, so the follow-up question is, given that there's been one vacancy that's most recent, and that there's another vacancy that's been in existence for some time now, over a year, why not have this potential mayoral nominee just go through the regular process of whose name could be submitted at the following agenda item? Why make a special case and introduce it now?
Well, again, I think the sense of, I mean, I agree that this is not typical of what we do, but I do think that there's a sense of urgency because the seat that the mayor's nomination will be filling is the one that has been vacated the longest by Richard Waring, which is the unaffiliated seat, I believe. It's, excuse me, you have something to say? You can interject.
Through you, Madam Chair, the person we are, that was sent favorably from Legislative Affairs Committee is actually the position that is filling the seat of Richard that has been empty for a year, per the documents that we were reviewing during the Legislative Affairs Committee.
Can you just double check that, Howard? Because I thought it was the other way around. I could be mistaken.
I could also be mistaken, but I think because I sat in on the committee, that's what I remember reading, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, but okay, regardless, we have taken one, regardless of, you know, what appointee is replacing what seat. There's 2 vacancies currently. One has been vacant for just about a year, a little over a year, and one has been vacant for a couple of months. One has gone through the process, Ms. Padaqua, I hope I'm pronouncing her name properly, that's on this current agenda for consideration. And then the one that the mayor would like to get going through the process is the one, why we're suspending the rule. And the plan is to refer him to committee. So he is going through the regular process. We are not voting on him today. He will go through the regular process, but it is to get the process going because sometimes this can take, you know, longer than we anticipate. So at least you get him in the process. That is the point, and that's the objective of suspending the rules because, again, there is a level of urgency to get this going and to have the board operating at optimum capacity. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bermudez?
No.
Councilman Clerk?
Pass.
Councilman Deutsch?
No.
Councilwoman Fox?
No.
Councilman Gale?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado?
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez?
Yes.
Councilwoman Thames?
Yes.
Councilwoman Winch?
Yes.
Councilman Clerk?
Yes.
Pass. Rules are suspended.
Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Through you, Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to place the following items on the consent calendar. That would be item number 7, item number 16 with a second substitute resolution, item number 21, 23, 24, 25, 26, 30, 31, 32, and 34.
Second.
Correct.
Yes, 28, not 26. Thank you.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Any discussion on the consent calendar? Minority Leader?
Thank you, through you, Council President. I just want to speak on items number 24 and 23. So item number 24, I just want to say thank you to the council colleagues for being in support of this resolution. It's calling primarily for three main things: to make sure that we have appointments made to the Housing Commission and as well as the Housing Task Force. These are items that have been placed on hold for quite some time, and we recognize that these appointments are extremely important. For the Housing Commission, no appointments have been made at all since 2016. And for the Housing Task Force, which is a new development and is in the works as of February 13 of this year for appointments to be made to the task force. So I want to say thank you to all of council colleagues for putting this item on consent. And also this resolution calls for making sure that Development Services has postings filled for housing inspectors. When we all sat here Wednesday, May 15th, which was a very long day when we began the budget process, one of the items that the WFP we introduced as a resolution called for more housing inspectors within Development Services, particularly given everything that's happened at the city of Hartford and in Hartford in general with slumlords. And so we called for more housing inspectors. However, that item did not vote favorably. It was not voted on by everyone on council. So we're appreciative of this resolution being in full support, particularly given that the Development Services housing inspectors has not been posted since February 25th of 2015. That position has not been posted for that time. The other item that I would like to speak on is item number 23. And this one has to do with a resolution that is in full support of having a program for our homeless population, our reentry population, modeled after Providence, Rhode Island, where they developed a program called A Hand Up. And it's specifically to help folks that are in transition, those individuals who are among our most vulnerable population, and to make sure that there is an incentive, an initiative whereby they could assist with cleanup efforts, including snow removal, like for instance, when we get calls at the city level from elderly who can't remove their own snow, for us to be able to provide an opportunity for actual jobs for this population. So I just want to say thank you to all the council colleagues, because this is absolutely in alignment with priorities that have already been set forth by this administration through the initiative. So thank you again.
Okay, Mr. Clerk. Oh, Dr. Deutsch?
Thank you, and through you, Madam President, I'd like to move to amend item 31, which discusses the high deductible health plans and has been discussed among some of us. A motion to amend.
Second.
Thank you.
Discussion on the, so the motion has been made to amend, and it's been properly seconded. Any discussion on the amendment? Dr. Deutsch?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, point of order. This is a consent calendar. So it seems to me this maybe needs to be removed for action, and then we have discussion on it, and we vote on the consent calendar.
Exactly. You gotta remove it.
Well,
but I'm sorry, Madam President, that's not what we discussed in caucus.
yeah. Yeah. Three.
Right. Corporation Counsel, can you just chime in with respect to, can a consent item be amended? Because that's the issue at this point.
Yeah, through you, Madam President, this is, I understand this, substitute proposed amendment. It would substantially change the item that's being considered for consent. Consent is, so I believe it has to come off the consent calendar, and then be voted on separately as a item for action.
Councilman Clark?
What if it was a friendly amendment?
Through you, Madam President, I don't think that makes any difference.
Okay.
So can I get a motion? So there's a current motion to amend, but clearly that's not allowable, so there needs to be a motion to move this to action. Or there's no motion necessary, so we can just agree to move it to action at this point. Okay? Duly noted. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll on the consent calendar with the omission of item number 31.
Councilwoman Bermudez?
Yes.
Councilman Clark?
Yes.
Councilman Deutsch?
Yes.
Councilwoman Fox?
Yes.
Councilman Gale?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado?
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez?
Yes.
Councilwoman Thames?
Yes.
Councilwoman Lynch?
Yes.
Pass.
Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Through you, Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to receive the following items, item number 4 and item number 5.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Any discussion on the received items? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bermudez?
Yes.
Councilman Clark?
Yes.
Councilman Deutsch?
Yes.
Councilwoman Fox?
Yes.
Councilman Gale?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado?
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez?
Yes.
Councilwoman Thames?
Yes.
Councilwoman Lynch?
Yes.
Pass.
All right. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Through you, Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to refer the following items, and my colleague, Minority Leader Bermudez, will read the description of each. That would be item number 26 with a replacement, and item number 27 to the Operations Management Budget and Government Accountability Committee. Item number 20 and 22 to the Planning, Economic Development, and Housing Committee. The hearing date for that is Monday, June 17, 2019. Item number 29 to the Quality of Life and Public Safety Committee. Item 35 with a replacement to the Legislative Affairs Committee. And item number 36 to the Committee of the Whole, date to be determined.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Minority Leader, you have the floor.
Okay. Item number 20, resolution to adopt the City of Hartford Capital Gateway Transit-Oriented Development Concept Plan. Item number 22, an ordinance amending Chapter 24, Chapter 30, and Chapter 18 of the Municipal Code of the City of Hartford to create a housing code. Item number 26, resolution encouraging Hartford Public Schools to allocate a portion of the surplus of $2.5 million on funding for sports, arts throughout the public school system. Item number 27, resolution requesting that MIRA shall credit the Hartford Department of Public Works the cost of the average per ton transportation cost. Item number 29, resolution requesting that the Hartford Police, Fire Departments, and Board of Education work with the Mayor's Office and the Court of Common Council to convene a working group to explore opportunities to create a City of Hartford Public Safety Academy for Hartford Public School students and city residents. Item number 36, resolution confirming the appointment of Philip Ruger to the Hartford Board of Education. And item number 35, resolution requesting that the state delegation, along with the City of Hartford, work collaboratively on passing a bill where major nonprofit organizations such as MDC or any nonprofit hospitals such as St. Francis Healthcare Partners, Bushnell, etc., pay 20% of its real estate assessed property to the City of Hartford.
Okay, any discussion on the referred items? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bermudez?
Yes.
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Deutsch.
Yes.
Councilwoman Fox.
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado, Councilman Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Thames,
Yes.
Councilwoman Lynch.
Yes.
Items are referred.
Thank you, Mr. Majority Leader. You have the floor.
Through you, Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to postpone the following items until June 10, 2019. Those are items number 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 17, 18, and 19.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Any discussion on the postponements? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bermudez,
Yes.
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Deutsch. Yes. Councilwoman Fox,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Thames.
Yes.
Councilwoman Lynch.
Yes.
Items are postponed.
Okay, Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Through you, Madam President, I'd like to place item number 1 up for action. Make a motion.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Any discussion on the adoption of the 2019-2020 amended budget with accompanying resolutions and ordinance? Councilman Clark.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, this was not so much a difficult budget, but it was in a way difficult for us to try to find some money to maneuver, and given the fact of our responsibilities by the charter, and even though we are overseen by MARB and they passed the mayor's overall recommended budget, it was still our responsibility to make sure that the voices of the residents for the city of Hartford were heard. And at our budget public hearing at Buckley High School, we heard from residents, and particularly those that worked in public works, regarding the need for more resources and funding. So I'm happy to say that we were able to appropriate, correct me if I'm wrong, $120,000 to Department of Public Works for seasonal employees, with the sole emphasis on those coming out of the subject to the criminal justice system. So this is our commitment to Hartford residents who have been subject to the criminal justice system, working with our Reentry Welcome Center to make sure that these jobs will go to Hartford residents that have been subject to that system. And as the author of the Criminal Justice Reform Commission, I'm hoping once we get those people appointed to the board that they can work in collaboration with our Reentry Center as well as our Department of Public Works to make recommendations so that we can get our residents up and running again, because many people deserve a second chance, and this can help add to the sustainability of our city and our city's economy.
Councilwoman Lynch.
Yes, Madam President, I'm a little confused because I know that I had 2 non-financials that I don't see here. Are we doing those at a later time?
I'm sorry, say that again? I
I
can't,
had
can you,
two-
is your mic on?
Yeah, I have 2 non-financials that I don't see attached to item number 1. Are we doing the non-financials at a later date?
No, I know there was some individuals that submitted non-financials at Agendas Day last week, so I'm not sure if you submitted them.
They were submitted during the budget process.
Right, but I know we discussed some, but they were officially supposed to be submitted to the town clerk's office last Wednesday. So I know some individuals did submit theirs. So I don't know if that was, so you can submit them for the next the next council meeting. Because they're non-financial, they're not binding to this budget.
I can make comment, but okay.
Any minority leader?
Thank you, through you, Council President. Through this budget process, we were able to make recommendations and listen to all the departments and learn more about where the gaps exist. My one statement in reference to this, there's many things that we can all say about the budget process, but the one thing that I want to highlight on the financial side of resolutions that Working Families Party, along with Councilwoman Winch, thank you, Councilwoman Winch, introduced on the financial side was to allocate funds to development services specifically for housing inspectors, which, as I mentioned before, it was voted down. We wish that more funds were allocated to that specific department for housing inspectors, given the current situation that we have with slumlords. But we myself will be supportive of this budget going forward, given the other conversations that we've had with colleagues. At the time when we sat down here on Wednesday, May 15th, we were informed that there were 2 vacancies within housing inspectors that had to be filled, but again, those positions had not been posted since 2015, so we understand that this is all a process, and we really welcome the information that was provided to us by Human Resources Department and others along this path. So thank you for your time.
Councilman Gale.
Thank you, Madam President. I would just like to comment, this being now the 4th budget that this council has dealt with, on my own experience in going back over these 4 years. In the very first budget that we adopted, there was an amount of incredible pain that was brought to bear on the citizens of Hartford. If I'm not mistaken, I think there were somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 positions that were eliminated from city government at that time, and there was no ability to have money in a capital improvements budget, and we were still in a deficit. And the following year, it only got worse. But we were able, through fiscal restraint, through fiscal responsibility, through working with our state delegation, with the governor, to come up with a plan that put the city on a path of fiscal sustainability. And I want to compliment everybody here for the hard work that's been done to put this budget together, and take note for the public that this year in this budget, although we've spent 3 years and now 4 with no borrowing, no money that we've gone out to impose on future generations the requirement to pay back. At the same time, though, this budget now includes $12 million for capital improvements. So that's $12 million, much of which is going to go to street repairs, needed things that have been put on hold, and we got there after 4 years. So I think it definitely represents a milestone. I think that there's a number of other really good things that are happening in Hartford at this time. Take note of the fact that there's been 1,200 units of housing that have come on board since this council took office. There's another 1,200 units that are in the planning stages. In discussions with the police department, major crime is down 30% in the 4 years that we've been on council. So I think it's a testament to a lot of hard work, and I've been very happy to be a part of it. Thank you.
Further discussion? So with that, I will just echo a lot of the sentiments that were shared, but just kind of, again, putting it in perspective on, as Councilman Gale kind of laid out where we were. Most of us, I know we have 2 new council members that just joined us in the last year, But for the most of us, you know, where we were when we first came into office and where we are now, and understanding, you know, our responsibility and partnership with the state of Connecticut through the Municipal Accountability Review Board, and recognizing that, you know, we need to make sure that we are, you know, on track and kind of staying in with the 5-year recovery plan that we set forth for ourselves. And I think that's more on being honest, responsible with projections with respect to our revenues and our spending. And so within that lens, I think, you know, for us, the margins are still very tight. There's still a very tight budget, and we're managing through that. But I think collectively through this process, I want to thank all my council colleagues, because I think we all tried to do our best with what we had, in expressing some of our priorities, which are priorities that we hear from our residents and that we heard from the public hearing at Buckley and throughout the process of this budget. And so that was one of reinvesting in essential quality of life things and ensuring that we have a clean Hartford. And so through that, you know, the DPW seasonal workers. So in springtime, fall time, we have the ability to get some extra capacity because DPW is strapped, but this allows them greater flexibility to add some capacity when it's necessary to ensure that we are cleaning our city and doing our best with respect to giving our residents the quality of life that they deserve. In addition is the graffiti removal program and reinvesting in that. That was a program that we had for some time, many years ago, and haven't been able to do that as much. And I think we've all seen that in the community. So how can we build a new partnership? Because the intention here is to reinstate that partnership with Knox Foundation to do the graffiti removal work that they had been doing for years past, and reviving that relationship, if you will. Again, all in the vein of quality of life, public safety, ensuring that our residents have a safe, clean city. In addition, Hartford decides, as Assistant Majority Leader mentioned, we now are on, you know, capital improvement pay-as-you-go, so we are not borrowing. We are actually taking from the general fund budget to pay for capital improvements. And I think it's important to express that, you know, Hartford Decides is a civically engaged group that gives residents some opportunity for insight into the city budget, engage them in ways that they may not have be engaged. It's been a wildly successful program. I always participated when Linda Bear was alive, God bless her heart, and the way they were able to really bring community out and engage them in the budget process. And so I think, you know, through this process, it was very important to give them something to keep that momentum going and to keep people civically engaged. And again, another point on outreach with respect to our immigrant community, and giving the library some resources to ensure that we have an accurate and complete count. Hartford has a very strong and vibrant immigrant community, and we know the challenges that are faced with this upcoming census and the policies that are being enacted on the federal level that could dissuade people. And so it's important that we have some capacity to help our immigrant community be accurately and completely counted. So again, giving some nominal resources there, but again, we're expressing our priorities and intentions and values as a council through our residents, and I think that's what this budget represented. And again, recognizing we can't do everything because we're still within fiscal constraints, but doing the best that we can, and expressing our values and the concerns that I know we all hear from the residents of Hartford. So I just want to thank all of my colleagues in going through this process, because there's a lot of late nights, a lot of deliberation, but I just want to thank you all, and I want to thank the staff as well, because again, without their support, we wouldn't be able to be present and do the work that we're doing. So thank you. Councilman Deutsch.
Thank you, Madam President, and the whole council and the public. I think it is praiseworthy that a budget was decided upon without raising taxes. But I think all of us should be aware that there are certain individuals and teams employed by the city that have not gotten raises, while there are other categories that have gotten raises. And I feel remiss in letting down some of our colleagues and friends who work difficult jobs for the rate which I have on one of their pay stubs of $21.98 behind a sanitation truck that has all kinds of hazardous materials. They're not always provided with elementary safety equipment that many of us think they should have, not readily available, namely face masks, boots, things for simple protection of their health while they're working, some of them for $18 an hour, $21 an hour, and have been at the same pay level for years with zeros for pay raises. So I don't think we should be especially proud that we held the line on the budget at the expense of some of the lowest paid individuals in the city. And I'd suggest to anyone that when their refuse and garbage is collected on the certain mornings, go out and speak to these men who are doing that work and ask them when is the last pay raise that they got, while some others at higher levels are getting 2% increases. I mean, that's a fact. So while I think it's an accomplishment that we haven't raised taxes, we should also recognize and admit that it comes at the expense of some people not even getting a cost of inflation pay raise at the same time that medical costs are eating out more of their checks, so that we have a full-time worker, after all the deductions and so on, taking home to his family $350.33 a week to support a family. $350.33 is his net take-home pay after all the deductions, some of which is savings and much of which is health care and so on. So I think we would all fail our public and some of our dedicated workers if we didn't mention that this should be on the very next priority, even this year, before the next budget comes up, as to how to transfer some money so that these gentlemen who keep the city clean can get a living wage, which this is not. Thank you, Madam President.
Councilman Clark?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Just want to provide some clarity to my esteemed colleague's comments. The fact that we do support our city residents, especially those who work in sanitation for the Department of Public Works, but just wanted to be clear that those wages, and there are some unions that are not going to receive a gross wage increase. That's because of the fact of what was agreed to by those particular unions that were ratified by those union groups before it got to this council for us to approve the union contract. And so that's something that's already been worked out before it gets to our desk. And so therefore, it's not the fact that we don't want them to receive pay raises, but it's what they have agreed to in their body, and you know this to be true, before it gets to our desk. So we do support our union employees as well as those that are Hartford residents, but that's what was agreed to before it got to council for us to vote. And we cannot pick apart a union contract. We have to vote on the entire package, and that includes everything that's bundled into that regarding wages, pay raises, health care packages, etc.
Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bermudez?
Yes.
Councilman Clark?
Yes.
Councilman Deutsch?
Yes.
Councilwoman Fox?
Yes.
Councilman Gale?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado?
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez?
Yes.
Councilwoman Thames?
Yes.
Councilwoman Lynch?
Yes.
Pass.
Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Through you, Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to place the following item number 8, on for action.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Assistant Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam President. I would just like to make a friendly amendment to item number 8. In this item, there are a number of references to the year 2017, and each of those references should be changed to the year 2019. So specifically on page 3, where it identifies certain employees as post-2017 employees, that should be changed to 2019. And the effective date of hiring should be July 1, 2019.
Duly noted. Any discussion on the action item? Councilwoman Fox.
Through you, Madam Chair. So I'm having a hard time with agenda item number 8, specifically because of what our overall benefits package is beginning to look like for potential new employees for the city, considering the fact that come July 1, everyone is being switched over to these high deductible health plans that research continues to show are not beneficial to folks that may live with pre-existing conditions or have family members that have pre-existing conditions. Once we start creating these pension packages that don't really create any kind of support for new employees, don't create this desire for folks to want to stay with the city, besides for, making it up to the 5-year point where the city will put in 100% contribution, I am struggling to understand how we are creating these conditions where new employees will feel supported and valued by a city that demands so much of them. And so I, as someone that believes in equity and believes that we should be creating conditions for people to thrive, coupled with the high deductible health plans, I do believe that these pension packages are not great.
Councilman Deutsch.
Thank you, and through you, Madam President. I support the comments made just now by Councilwoman Fox.
Didn't we just say yes?
And more so, I have to observe with something of a political slant, to which I readily admit, that when you have these 401A, 401K, 401J, whatever it is, this puts the future of many individuals who work for the city, those who elect this plan, on a basis of a gamble, that when they have these funds at their discretion, there will be some winners and some losers, where their defined contribution, that's the term, they have to manage as best they can, even if they get advice from personal advisors or members of the city, and even if the city pays for these advisors. In other words, this kind of approach, to put it quite boldly, is a Republican innovation to have personal and private control of pensions versus an assured and guaranteed pension system, which has existed ever since Social Security in this country and now has existed in many cities and with many unions and large employers. But there is a shift, and I emphasize again, especially to the people on the council and in the city who call themselves Democratic Party adherents. I have to stress that the Democratic Party has stood for pensions that are reliable, whether it be Social Security or what's called defined benefit, where we sign up and we know what we'll get when we get old and retire, as opposed to gambling on the stock market if we choose to invest the money with no backup whatsoever, like happened when Enron went broke and a lot of people lost money because they gambled their futures and their retirement money went to zilch. So therefore, this, as you see, is one elements supporting individual management with no security, and one could say quite clearly that for some individuals, they do better investing in U.S. Treasury bonds or FDIC-insured CDs, because at least you know that that money will be secure. Whereas for those who adhere to the 401A plan and encourage others, to be smart and make it in good form in the market, that's a gamble with their futures, and they may wind up with much less money than they anticipated. That applies to all of us. And if you want to gamble, I guess that's fine, but usually gamblers come on the losing side rather than the winning side, unless you watch too much television. So I would say, almost as a plea to my colleagues that consider them adherents to the Democratic Party rather than the Republican Party, this is just putting it boldly, that they would choose to have a secure pension or at least a secure treasury bond rather than have the city spending money on advisors, individual plans, and all that bureaucracy, so that individuals are told, well, good luck with the markets with your 401A or 401K, and they may find themselves with nothing. So again, I emphasize, for those who consider themselves Democrats, which most of the people in the city with a capital D or a small d, they will lose out when they gamble with stock market investment. You know it in general. There will be some winners and some losers. The ones who lose will really may be out in the street. Thank you.
Councilman Clark.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. Just want to, again, provide some point of clarification. This ordinance that is before us is not to alleviate the MRF from the city system. The MRF is still going to be intact. This is to create a 401A retirement plan, which is the defined contribution for non-union employees only. Am I correct? That it goes into effect hired after July 1st of 2019. So therefore, anybody hired non-union, hired before July 1st, 2019 will be able to contribute to our city's pension system. And we already know that majority of the non-union employees are hired at the beginning of the elected term, and most of them don't serve past 4 years because they serve with whoever the elected appointed official is, and it takes 5 years for an employee to be vested. So I just want to put that clarification out there.
Councilwoman Lynch.
Yes, through you, Madam President. This is not, in my opinion, a Democratic or a Republican issue. This is strictly business venture. And if you are not happy with the company that you want to go and be employed by, with what they're offering you, then don't accept their job, don't accept their position. It's not a draft. People aren't made to come and be employed by the city of Hartford. If you don't like what the city's offering, then say, thank you, but no thank you. I'm not gonna be able to work there because you're not offering a retirement plan that I can live with, that I can, sustain with or participate in. So these are strictly, this right here, ordinance strictly applies to individuals coming into the city of Hartford after July 2019. So if individuals do not, and one of the things that I might say kept us from addressing this item earlier was that we wanted to be sure that it did not affect existing employees. Even if they were non-bargaining union employees, we wanted to make sure that they were not affected. And this does not affect anyone who is currently hired by the city of Hartford. It only will affect individuals who come into the city of Hartford after July 1, 2019.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, through you, Council President. On this side of the aisle, as Working Family Party council members, we feel strongly about opposing item number 8 because there is going to be a significant impact on pensions for those who are non-union employees. And overall, we feel strongly about the fact that all of our city employees should be treated equally. Our city employees do provide a lot of service, and they're public sector employees, so generally it means that they don't make a lot of money, as is. And as has already been mentioned by council colleagues, with the changes occurring to the high deductible health plans, our employees are already receiving a significant decrease in their paychecks that will come into effect come July of this year, July 2019. So that means that what we're going to face before us is going to be a bigger problem in the long term in terms of retention and recruitment. While our non-union employees make up a smaller pool of our total employees for the city of Hartford, nonetheless, they are city employees. And so if we're gonna do right by one group, we should do right by all groups. And we are very much against item number 8 because we're concerned about recruitment and retention efforts moving forward. Thank you.
So just a few points of clarification and just making sure we all, I'm sure we do, right? So at a certain point, we're just going to agree to disagree, but I do feel compelled to lay out some key points. So as was stated, this is for non-bargaining appointed employees, and it's going forward. So after any new employees after July 2019, which is projected at this point to be maybe 2 employees, maybe 5 employees that are actually going to be impacted. And when you look at the full projection of implementation, the last projection that I saw that the treasurer had produced was maybe in 5 years we would be at 30 employees that would be on this plan. Second point is important to understand that this is not unprecedented. So the Board of Ed, many years ago, maybe 7 or 8 years now, had moved in this direction for their non-bargaining appointed positions. And so the treasurer has been working with the Board of Ed to piggyback off of that plan, again, to minimize the costs and make it more efficient. There's many communities around us that have moved in this direction because, again, it's for a smaller pool of your workforce. I know you mentioned Minority Leader and Councilman Deutsch around the income levels of people. So if you look at the pool that would be impacted, many of them on the higher income scale. And so from a recruitment perspective, those individuals are looking for portable plans because they know that when they are appointed position, they're coming for 2 years, 4 years max. And after they fulfill their duties with that potential elected official or administration, that they can now take that plan and roll it over to a Roth, another 401, a 401A or what have you, whereas contributing to the pension makes more restrictions. And so that is something that I know verbatim from the employees that would be a part of this and impacted, that is actually appealing from a recruitment and retention perspective, if you will. Again, I don't think, as my colleague, Councilwoman Winch, mentioned, I don't want to put politics into it because, again, I think it's a matter of, we have to look at the city of Hartford, the residents of Hartford, and looking at our, fiscal situation, whether it's short-term or long-term. And I think we all looked at the pros and cons, weighing all the decisions that we're making. And I think this plan actually makes sense of moving us into that direction with respect to, again, a small pool of employees where many New Havens, Stanfords, West Hartfords have all moved in this direction. And again, it's not unprecedented of what we've already done locally on the Board of Ed side. So with that and those key facts and looking at it in that context, I think it makes sense for the city to, again, move in this direction with a very small pool of employees that will be impacted versus compared to our larger workforce. So most of our employees are unionized, and this is not encroaching on any of their collective bargaining rights or anything. They've all negotiated their contracts, and this in no way or form encroaches on that. This is specific to non-bargaining appointed position, which is a very small pool when you look at the overall pool of the city of Hartford. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bermudez.
No.
Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Councilman Deutsch.
No.
Councilwoman Fox.
No.
Councilman Gale.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado.
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez.
Yes.
Councilwoman Thames.
Yes.
Councilwoman Lynch.
Yes.
Pass.
Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Through you, Madam President, I'd like to place the following item number 31, up for action.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. It doesn't require a vote. Discussion? What? Oh, he's doing amendment, right. Councilman Deutsch.
Motion to amend.
Second.
A motion has been made to amend item number 31. So we need to vote on the motion? Or you need to tell us what the motion is, sorry. You can read it.
Might as well. Might as well.
The amendment, I'm sorry.
The amendment.
It's getting a long night. It's a long night.
Well, let's try to shorten it then. Through the efforts of several people on all sides of council, there has been attention to the high deductible health plans that has been propagated within the city. And many people that we have spoken to, several of us, find it very difficult to afford these high upfront deductibles that are necessary in this plan for people to get medical services when they haven't yet or couldn't afford the high deductible, which could
Point
be
of order, Madam President, is that a part of the amendment or is that discussion?
Yes, okay, well, let me just read
Please read the amendment, yes.
Yeah, okay, well, that was introduction. Okay, I'm sorry. The amendment reads this way. In your packet, for those who have seen the packet, there is a resolution with the names Clark, Bermudez, and Sanchez on it, which calls for a employee satisfaction survey. I would like to amend it in this way. In the second paragraph, and I read it for the public that hasn't seen the paper, which all of us have now seen, written out. In the second paragraph, be it further resolved, the Department of Human Resources shall, and then the amendment is, in consultation with independent outside expertise obtained through an RFP process with approximately $40,000 taken from the benefits and insurances budget that now exists, which is some $49 million. That's what we pay, in, roughly speaking, in health insurance and claims against the city for health. Obtained through that process and sent to foundations and schools of public health and also to Hartford's Internal Audit Commission. So in other words, in that first amendment would be have consultation of a wider nature with expertise in this issue of health economics. The second amendment would be later in that same sentence, to determine the cost of the high deductible health plan savings to the city of Hartford and employees, including a cost-benefit analysis comparison, that means the cost and health of health services and outcomes, comparison,
Point of order.
Comparison with the State of Connecticut Partnership Plan 2.0 and its introduction into several other Connecticut cities. So it adds comparison with the state plan as well as our own history. That's the
Okay.
amendment I propose.
All right. Discussion, Councilwoman Lynch and then
Yes.
Councilman Clark.
I fully understand the councilman wants to amend, but you need to read exactly the amendment. You keep interjecting things that are not here.
I'm sorry, okay.
So you need to say verbatim what your amendment is without all the additional stuff that's not here.
Would you, here, through the chair, would you like to read it literally verbatim, the way it's written on the paper that we all have?
If you desire, that's through the chair is okay. I would read it verbatim.
I think it's
We
there.
have it right
have
in front of us.
And he pretty much, it's okay.
Yeah.
Councilman Clark?
Thank you.
I yield my time back to the chair.
Any discussion on the amendment? It was already seconded, so it's discussion. You good? Okay. Mr. Clerk, call the roll, please. Yes, so this is a vote as amended. No, on the amendment.
Councilwoman
Apologies.
Bermudez.
Yes.
Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Councilman Deutsch.
Yes.
Councilwoman Fox.
Yes.
Councilman Gale.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado.
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez.
Yes.
Councilwoman Thames.
Yes.
Councilwoman Lynch.
Yes.
Pass.
Okay, now we are voting on the item as amended.
Correct.
Do we have to do another motion?
Nope.
So,
Council-
Mr. Clerk?
Councilwoman Bermudez.
Yes.
Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Councilman Deutsch.
Yes.
Councilwoman Fox.
Yes.
Councilman Gale.
Abstain.
Councilwoman Rosado.
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez.
Yes.
Councilwoman Thames.
Abstain.
Councilwoman Lynch.
Yes.
Pass.
Okay. Mr. Majority Leader?
Yes, I'd like to place a note, item number 33 is withdrawn by its author. And then following that, I'd like to make a motion to enter into executive session.
Second.
A motion has been made, properly seconded. Any discussion? Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bermudez.
Yes.
Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Councilman Deutsch.
Yes.
Councilwoman Fox.
Yes.
Councilman Gale.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado. Councilwoman Rosado.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilman Sanchez.
Yes.
Councilwoman Thames.
Yes.
Councilwoman Lynch.
Yes.
Pass.
Through you, Madam President, I'd like to make a motion that we come out of executive session.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bermudez.
Present.
Councilman Clark.
Yes. Here.
Councilman
Present.
Deutsch.
Present.
Councilwoman Fox.
Are we saying present or here, or yes?
Either
Yes.
Councilman Gale.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado.
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez.
Yes.
Councilwoman Thames.
Yes.
Councilwoman Lynch. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Through you, Madam President, I'd like to place item number 2 up for action. Make a
Second.
motion.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bermudez.
Yes.
Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilwoman Fox.
Yes.
Councilman Gale.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado.
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez.
Yes.
Councilwoman Thames.
Yes.
Councilwoman Lynch. Pass.
Thank you. And before we close, I just wanted to note for the record, I wanted to change my vote on item number 31 to yes from abstention.
Duly noted.
Thank you. So with that, thank you all for joining us in the audience, those of you that are left, and for all of you viewing it at home, thank you. Have a good night.